Democratic Party is very much still the party of working people. And if you look at a number of issues, whether it's minimum wage or the right to organize and bargain.
The time didn't pass for you.
Thank you. You look good too. I'm all holed up, you know. I haven't been out in the world very much, but
where are you working now in this time of lockdowns? You are working in home or
at home mostly. I mix it up a little bit. I've been in the office occasionally because I'm the only person there, so it's very safe. But
how you live the election that Biden won last week?
Well, I'm happy that Biden won, but
yes.
I was a little surprised it was as close as it was, and I'm disappointed that the Democrats didn't make more progress in the Senate and that they lost ground in the House. So it was kind of a strange election overall. You know, definitely kind of mixed messages coming out of this election.
I saw the warning you made through the Bloomberg media report, and I share in 100% that warning, because when Trump won the election especially in the Rust Belt states, I talk about Michigan, Pennsylvania, and Wisconsin in 2016, the Republicans didn't want that the states since the times of Ronald Reagan, in fact. How are you leaving this appointment of the labor secretary, and why did you make this warning? I read in the Bloomberg.
Yeah, well, the Biden team is putting together their cabinet, which is very important at this moment in time, because you know the economy is so fragile right now. We've had a massive job loss, and we're still in the middle of a very severe pandemic. And so the new president is going to take on lots of challenges, and particularly economic challenges. So I think it's really important that the Biden administration put in place a whole cabinet. So the labor secretary, but also Treasury and Commerce, State Department, that will really fight for working families. And because I would like to see the Democratic Party take back the allegiance.
The old flags.
Earn the allegiance of the working class, because to my mind, the Republican Party mostly puts in place policies that are very anti-worker. You know, the tax cuts for the wealthy, they destroy unions, they have bad trade policies. And so, but because Democrats, I think, have sometimes been a little bit schizophrenic in terms of support for Wall Street and big business and Silicon Valley, then working class Americans get mixed messages from the Democrats. And so they were hungry to hear somebody like Donald Trump make promises. Oh, I'm going to bring the jobs home. I'm going to be on the side of working people. But my view is that Joe Biden, as president, has a very short window in which he can earn the allegiance of the working class. He's got just 2 years before the midterm elections. And what I don't want to see happen is what happened to Barack Obama, which is 2 years into his first term, Republicans made big gains in the Congress and then was unable to act, because, you know, the US political system requires cooperation between the legislative branch and the executive branch. And right now, Joe Biden has very thin margin in the House, and it's unclear what's happening in the Senate. But this time is going to go by fast, and the economy is really in terrible shape, and the labor market is in terrible shape, and it will be for some time to come. So it's so important. The government role right now is urgent. The government has to step up and provide aid to state and local governments, so that they can continue to provide services and keep people employed. They have to extend the unemployment insurance further. And it's not going to be easy. But what we don't want to see is a bunch of kind of weak-willed, timid Wall Street corporate Democrats come in and start pulling away the punch bowl. That's an expression, that taking away the punch bowl before the party even gets started. And that's a way of saying, you know, sort of flipping back to austerity and budget cutting while the economy is still weak would be a huge mistake.
Thea, why do you think is the reason that Trump is keeping support of some big portion of the working class in the Midwest states? Your last part, yeah.
Sure. So I think it'll take a while before we have all the data in about exactly who voted for Trump and who voted for Biden. But at the end of the day, Biden did make big gains over what Hillary Clinton did in 2016. About, you know, he won by 5 million votes. She won by 3 million votes. But he took back those industrial Midwest states, Michigan, Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, and Biden did. And then also picked up a couple of southern states, Arizona and Georgia. We saw a lot of movement, particularly among white women and the suburbs, away from Trump towards Biden. I mean, one of the early exit polls that I saw did show that Biden won with voters who earn less than $100,000 a year. And Trump won with people who earn between 100 and 200,000. You know, I think all these numbers will probably keep changing a little bit. So we're not quite sure what the outcome is. But it's, you know, it's complicated. I do think that unions delivered a good, strong vote for Joe Biden this time around, that unions were more effective in mobilizing and convincing their members to vote for Joe Biden. And, you know, the Economic Policy Institute, where I am leading now, we put out a paper that was 50 ways the Trump administration has hurt working people. 50 ways. And we could have come up with 100. You know, we had to stop somewhere to make it manageable. But the Trump administration has systematically hurt working people. They have made it harder for workers to organize a union. They did a massive tax bill that only helped the very richest corporations. They have taken away worker protections on overtime pay, on joint employers, like, you know, whether who your employer is and who you can organize a union with, have refused to allow the minimum wage to increase. So this has been very overwhelming that the Trump administration has taken a lot of steps to hurt working people. And so when you ask, you know, why is there still strong working class support for Donald Trump? I don't know the answer. I mean, I think the other thing that the Trump administration or Trump himself has done very effectively is to divide Americans from each other, scapegoat immigrants and people of color, to stir up fear of riots in big cities. And he does it in a very racially divisive way. It's ugly, but it works a little bit. So this is something, you know, I think America has a lot of work to do. We have a lot of work to do to educate people, to connect, to communicate with each other. And I hope we can get something done, because it's a little bit scary that, you know, we're living through this pandemic, and the Trump administration has politicized the pandemic and the simple measures that we need to take in society to keep each other safe. That's criminal.
About you made some reference about the schizophrenia of the Democrats of the Democratic Party in relation to the policy with China. I saw some media report of New York Times where you were talking about the relationship with China, and I saw that maybe in the past, after 90s, the position of the Democrats, and in relation specific to Joe Biden, was some kind of a naive the position. I see that maybe the Democrats now are changing the position in relation to China now.
Question also, and I wish I knew the answer, because I think you're absolutely right that Trump changed policy, changed the way we talk about trade policy, and some of that was welcome. Because what I would say is, and I've been doing this trade policy work for almost 3 decades now, a long time. I'm an old lady, but the elite of both the Democratic and Republican Party for a long time had a sort of free trade, globalist, pro-corporate set of policies, and there was a lot of consensus. I think it was still true that Democrats were more likely to vote against trade agreements or China joining the World Trade Organization than Republicans, but there was a big group of centrist Democrats, moderate Democrats, who would consistently consider themselves free traders. And I think that's one of the things that convinced working class voters in the United States that Democrats weren't on their side. That Democrats spent a lot of time trying to get NAFTA passed and the World Trade Organization, China's entry into the World Trade Organization and the Trans-Pacific Partnership. Democrats at the top, the presidents in Bill Clinton, Barack Obama, as well as the Republicans. So this was kind of a bipartisan consensus. Donald Trump wrecked that. Donald Trump came in and upset the apple cart, and I think he was right that U.S. policy toward China.
That was welcome in the occasion that Trump maybe broke the policy in relation to China.
Well, I'll tell you what, I think he was right in saying that U.S. trade policy had been bad for working people. He was not right in laying out the needed policy changes. So it was more like yelling and screaming. It was his rhetoric.
He failed in the solutions.
He failed in the solutions.
In the policies.
He correctly identified a problem, but he failed to produce a workable solution. And because he's kind of shallow and egotistical and impulsive, there was never any coherent China trade policy coming out of the Trump administration. He would, slap some tariffs on, and then he would get bored and pull them off. It just, there wasn't any concerted attack. And it also, this is, I think, an important point, that the Trump trade policies were not connected to his domestic policies. He had promised investment in infrastructure. He did not deliver that. Donald Trump did not. And he was, ruining labor markets and busting unions and deregulating and giving tax cuts. So he wasn't investing in America, and he wasn't, creating the conditions under which American workers and manufacturers could succeed in the global economy. He was just yelling about China, and it was very, it was like a fake populist thing. You can scream about bringing jobs home, but he didn't deliver those jobs. I think Joe Biden, if he makes the right choices, is poised to deliver good jobs, good manufacturing jobs, good union jobs, and a new trade policy.
If he made the right choices, I think you highlight that sentence.
That's right. And I don't know what he's going to do, because, and that's why I said, there's a certain schizophrenia inside the Democratic Party. And I think Joe Biden has both camps, are part of his team, the kind of moderate centrist pro-corporate Democrats and the progressive Democrats. I don't know who wins.
And you sympathize with the progressive Democrats, I think so, no?
I sympathize with the progressive Democrats, and I hope they win the battle, because I think that's what's needed right now for the country to heal. And this is an area where Joe Biden can win back working class votes if he can demonstrate, if he can do a better job than Donald Trump did on trade policy, manufacturing, infrastructure, energy, and the care economy.
If Joe Biden, maybe my last question, if Joe Biden does not deliver that policies, what do you think it could happen maybe in the near future in relation to maybe it reactivates some kind of Trumpism, or maybe
Well, what could be more dangerous is Trumpism without Trump.
Yes.
So if Joe Biden can't deliver, and I hope that the Congress won't block him, I hope that he can convince Congress and build a coalition that will get these policies through, because he's going to need some cooperation from Congress to really get the right policies through. But if he can do all that, then he can succeed. If he fails, then in 2024, whether Donald Trump runs for a second term or another Republican who can take some of the fake populist messages from Trump, but do it in a less obnoxious and racist and xenophobic way, and won't have a pandemic, then that person could be more successful. And I would like to see a true progressive global economic policy for the United States. And I think it's something that will build a stronger economy for the United States and will eventually bring Americans together. Right now, we're a very divided country, and it's hard to watch.
Thea, is there any possibility that I see you maybe in the near future in the labor secretary? Is there any possibility?
I think that's quite unlikely, but thank you for mentioning it.
Yes.
So,
you are my candidate for that position.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate the vote. I'm pretty happy where I am. I'm running my organization, and I feel like the Economic Policy Institute has a lot of good advice to offer the incoming Biden administration, and we hope we'll have the opportunity.